BMW 5 Series or a Mercedes E-Class. They're often men, and it would seem that Friday afternoon is a particularly problematic time.
Dass es häufig Männer sind, die angezeigt werden. Und dass man wirklich auch sieht, dass der Freitagnachmittag...
That's when the police receive the most complaints.
Das sind wirklich viel mehr Anzeigen, die eingehen bei der Polizei als an den anderen Tagen.
On the drive home after a stressful week at work, patience seems to be wearing particularly thin. And there seems to be a certain type of driver that's more aggressive than others.
There are many factors that suggest that there are clear similarities between driving style and lifestyle. Someone who's professionally successful, who's learned to seize chances and to avoid being thwarted by others, to recognize gaps in the market, will also tend to seize opportunities while driving, such as dangerous overtaking and avoiding getting stuck because of others. A person like that will deal with problem situations, consciously or unconsciously, in the same way in life and while driving.
But is it really just assertive business people on their way home for the weekend who speed and tailgate? Or do we all have a bit of road rage in us? That's another issue the scientists in Würzburg have investigated.
Adjust the seat so that it's comfortable. It's an automatic, so you can just drive. And buckle yourself in.
Wieder noch anschnallen.
With the help of a driving simulator, the traffic researchers want to find out what concrete situations lead to aggressive driving behavior.
Gut, los geht's. Okay, dann starten wir jetzt mit dem Versuch.
The simulator mimics the movements of a real car, thereby making the whole experience more realistic. The test person hasn't been given any special instructions. The man's to drive as always. Then a classic. After just a short time, the test subject approaches a car that's driving more slowly and is blocking the fast lane. In such conflict situations, many test subjects drove up too close behind the car. Instead of the prescribed safety distance of 2 seconds to the car ahead, the tailgaters reduced their distance to, on average, 0.6 seconds, far too little to be able to brake in an emergency. Finally, the driver undertakes. His impatience and anger lead to illegal behavior.
Ich würde davon ausgehen, dass ich
I'd assume that the majority of us could be swayed to drive up too closely or tailgate in a situation like this.
reisen lassen würde, zu nah aufzufahren oder auch mal zu drängen.
The scientists also want to find out what behavior is considered aggressive by other drivers. A new traffic situation. The test subject has a clear road. Finally, he can put his foot down. But in his rear-view mirror, he can see cars approaching that are faster than him. The chaser becomes the chased, and tailgaters are particularly unhappy about being tailgated themselves.
What we found out was that many test subjects who, as the rear vehicle drivers, demanded that the gap in the slow lane was big enough for them to get into, stayed in the fast lane when in the same situation in the front vehicle. They would have a problem with themselves if they met themselves on the road.
Our subjective assessment that there are two types of drivers, tailgaters and obstructors, isn't right. It's the same type who's responsible for both offenses. One of the personality traits of this driver is that he gets angry particularly easily. This type also misbehaves frequently in normal life.
Traffic is a shared affair. Traffic is an activity we all participate in, one that's governed by certain rules. Those rules have to be renegotiated all the time. We have to live with the fact that there are people who don't follow these rules. That's true in all areas of society. They don't behave as expected, and that causes irritating problems that can trigger strong emotional reactions.
There was one who pulled out and I had to brake. I then overtook him and he overtook me again, and while he was overtaking me he gave me the finger. I thought I'd let him do his thing. I didn't do anything. I knew I was faster. I followed him to the next lights and knocked on the window and asked him what we'd do now. He said, "What are we going to do now?" And I answered, "You just gave me the finger. I'd like to report you. You can't behave like that." He then jumped out of his car and attacked me. I pushed him and he fell into his car and then I punched him. I never start, but if he wants it, we'll do it. What am I to do? I'm not someone who beats people up, and I'm not in favour of it, but I don't like being attacked either. We kept attacking each other with words too, and it didn't help. Then the light turned green, and people were honking, and we had to drive off.
Es hat irgendwie überhaupt nichts gebracht und dann wurde die Ampel grün und die Leute haben gehupt und dann mussten wir losfahren.
There are people who just get out of their cars and won't accept the situation, or they want to punch you.
Oder die fallen dir aufs Maul hauen, sag ich mal auf gut Deutsch.
If Bernd Irrgang had his way, we should leave our cars behind more often and go for walks and enjoy life and the sunshine.
Walking is the most natural way for people to get about, and the oldest way too, and also the most environmentally friendly one. Everything else only came very much later.
But pedestrians also have problems. Bernd Irrgang is the chairman of the pedestrian lobby. He laments that the rights of his members are being spurned. They're not even safe on pavements anymore.
Pavements are being used more and more by others, such as cyclists, skaters, and skateboarders.
Inline skater, skateboarder.
There are rubbish bins on them. Bicycles are parked on them, which means that pedestrians are given less and less room on which to move about.
Des Fußgängers immer mehr eingeengt werden.
On his forays through German town centers, Bernd Irrgang comes across many annoyances. Badly laid paving stones, dog poo in pedestrian zones, cars parked on the footway. Here in Frankfurt city center, he wants to show us what annoys him most: inconsiderate cyclists.
This is a typical corner where cyclists just go on the pavement in order to avoid stopping at the red light. Even when the light's green, they'd have to get off because it's a pedestrian crossing. But no, they carry on riding. And that happens all day long.
For years, Bernd Irrgang has been demanding that it be mandatory for cyclists to have a license plate. That would make many an inconsiderate cyclist more careful, he thinks.
You rode on the pavement here. It's solely for pedestrians.
If I ride on the road, I have a problem with drivers.
Yes, but that's your problem.
But the risk of injury is lower if I'm on the pavement.
Then the pedestrian's the one who gets injured.
No, they don't get injured because we can avoid them.
Not if there are several pedestrians.
Then I can brake and stop.
You're just accepting the risk of maltreating pedestrians.
Or I risk injuring myself.
There are cyclepaths for that.
Or people can just be selfish.
What do you mean, selfish? You're insisting on your position, namely, I'm cycling here.
And you insist on your position, too.
You know you're not allowed to cycle on the pavement.
Yes, but tell that to the cars parked on the cycle track.
You tell them. It's your path being blocked. Or do you want me to tell drivers to keep cyclepaths free so that cyclists don't come onto my pavement? You were cycling on the pavement.
Yes, because he's on the cycle path. I couldn't get past.
Yes, that's your problem. You can't just make your problem a problem for pedestrians. The answers reveal an interesting mindset on the part of the cyclists. It's the typical pecking order. Cyclists frustrated by drivers vent their frustration on pedestrians.
Vom Auto gefrustete Radler lässt seinen Frust am Fußgänger aus.
My pavement is mine. Everyone likes to mark his territory in traffic. An attempt was made in Bomta to get people to break that habit. The town in Lower Saxony took a radical approach and removed all road markings, leveled all the pavements, and took down all the right-of-way signs. The result? Chaos. That was the intention, say the inventors of shared space. This concept comes from Holland. The Dutch say that this merry confusion of lorries, cars, cyclists, pedestrians, pushchairs, and dogs is good for road safety. Bomta's mayor thinks the same.
The aim is to make everyone a bit more uncertain because of the lack of a traffic system, which just demands road users to be more attentive. The first 2 years of this experiment have confirmed the view that this works.
12,000 cars, including lorries, make their way through Bomta every day. It's nevertheless possible to stroll along the village street as a pedestrian, says Mayor Klaus Gödejohann.
I could go now.
But not everyone's convinced by the new traffic concept in Bomta. Shared space was introduced here 2 years ago. Have accidents decreased in that time? Accident investigators have a sobering finding.
We still have a significant number of accidents